Good morning. Now we start with the second part of the chapter Through the Eyes of the Travelers Perceptions of the Society from 10th to 17th Century. In this segment, we'll study about Al Biruni. Al Biruni, who was an Islamic scholar, a Muslim scientist, a polymath, a mathematician, astronomer, and philosopher, who is described in various sources as Arab and Persian. He made significant contribution to the principles of optics as well as to astronomy, mathematics, visual perceptions, and to the scientific world. Al-Biruni's main interests were in geology, physics, anthropology, though there isn't much significant work left by him in this segment, comparative sociology, astronomy, astrology, chemistry, history, geography, mathematics, medicine, psychology, philosophy, and theology. Al-Biruni was born in 973 in Khwarazm, which is in present-day Uzbekistan. It is in Central Asia. Khwarazm was a very important center of learning in those times, and Al-Biruni received the best education available at that time. He was well versed in a number of languages like Syriac, Arabic, Persian, Hebrew, and Sanskrit. He did not know Greek, but he had read the translations of Plato and other Greek philosophers' works. Al-Biruni is termed as the first Indologist, a person having great interest in Indian studies. Out of 146 books which are attributed to him, most of them, that is about 95 of them, are devoted to astronomy, mathematics, and other related subjects like mathematical geography. He wrote an extensive commentary on Indian astronomy, and in which he claimed that he had resolved the matters of Earth's rotation. Now, this work is no longer available. Al-Biruni was the greatest scholar of medieval Islamic era and was well versed in physics, mathematics, astronomy, and natural sciences. Al-Biruni's life transformed as a result of destiny. Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni invaded Khwarazm and took many prisoners of war, which included scholars and poets, who were taken back to his capital at Ghazni. This transformed the scholar, mathematician, and the scientist Al-Biruni into the traveler Al-Biruni. He arrived at Ghazni as a prisoner of war, but he soon won his freedom of movement throughout the empire because of his scholarly brilliance. And in this manner, he set out to explore and understand the new world that he had come to. In those days, Punjab and Sindh had become part of Ghaznavid Empire, and it is through these areas that Al-Biruni had his entry into the Indian subcontinent, and he started studying about India in great detail. Al-Biruni, who had arrived as a prisoner of war at Ghazni, later on developed a liking for this city. And it is in this city that he spent rest of his life until his death at the age of 70. When he was staying in Ghazni, he developed an interest in India. This was not unusual because the Sanskrit works on astronomy, mathematics, and medicine had been translated into Arabics from the 8th century onwards. And so, when Punjab and Sindh became part of Ghaznavid Empire, The contact with the local population helped in creating an environment of mutual trust and understanding. So Al-Biruni spent a number of years in the company of Brahmin priests and scholars, learning Sanskrit and studying religious and philosophical texts. He did not widely travel in India because his traveling was limited to areas of northern India. Al-Biruni spent years in the company of Brahmin scholars, and he tried to learn the native languages and studying the scriptures and contemporary literature. And it is through this interaction that he was able to write Kitabul Hind, that is his account of the subcontinent. Al-Biruni is one of the most important Muslim authorities on the history of religion. Al-Biruni was a pioneer in the study of comparative religion. He studied Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and other religions. He was happy on occasions to express his admiration for other cultures. And when he was writing his conclusions, very often he directly quotes from the sacred text of other religions. Al-Biruni seemed to be arguing that there is a common human element in every culture that makes all cultures of the world distant relatives, even though they seem very different to each other. He wrote on every aspect of Indian life, including religion, history, geography, geology, science, and mathematics. He wasn't interested in military and political history of the area. Instead, he wrote about the civilians, the everyday life of the people, the scholarly areas of Hindu life such as culture, science, and religion. Consequently, Al-Biruni described his work as a help to those who want to discuss religious questions with them. With them is the Hindus, as a repertory of information to those who want to associate with them, as a collection of information for all the people who wanted to know about Hindus and Hinduism. And Hindu in those days was a term used by the Arabic scholars for all the people who lived on the other side of river Indus. That was not a term which was associated with any particular religion. It was a term which was used for the people in general, the people staying on other side of river Indus. Al-Biruni's expertise in several languages allowed him to compare languages and translate the text of other languages into Arabic and Persian. He translated several Sanskrit works, including Patanjali's Ashtadhyayi, into Arabic. For his Brahmin friends, he translated the works of Euclid, a Greek mathematician, into Sanskrit. Travel literature was already an accepted part of Arabic literature by the time he started writing. So this literature dealt with lands as far as the Sahara Desert in the west to River Volga in the north. Few people in India would have read Al-Biruni before 1500, but many others outside India may have done so because in those areas travel literature was very, very popular. Kitabul Hind, the major document of Al-Biruni on India. Al-Biruni's Kitabul Hind is written in simple Arabic. It is written in a scientific manner with a uniform pattern throughout the book. Al-Biruni generally began his chapter with a question, followed this up with a description based on Sanskritic traditions, and then concluded this with a comparison with the customs and norms of his own land. Subject matter of Kitabul Hind. Kitabul Hind dealt with the following subjects: socio-religious customs, philosophy, astronomy, alchemy, meteorology, weights and measures, etc. Al-Biruni's book, Kitabul Hind, is also known as Tehqiq-e-Hind. He wrote this book in simple Arabic, and it is a large volume which is divided into 80 chapters. The subject matter of this book are religion and philosophy, festivals, astronomy, alchemy, manners and customs, social life, weights and measures, ethnography, laws, and meteorology. Al-Biruni adopted a distinctive structure in each chapter, and so he begins every chapter with a question, follows this up with a description based on Sanskritic traditions, and then concludes with a comparison with other existing cultures. Many scholars have argued that this structure of his book was mainly due to his training as a mathematician. Therefore, the entire book follows a geometric structure and is very, very predictable. Apart from being Indologist and writing a book on India, Al-Biruni, the geographer, made significant contributions in map marking, in travel writing, and calculated the circumference of the earth. He used latitudes and longitudes to measure the earth, and he theorized that the earth spins on its axis. In fact, he was one of the first people to do it. 600 years before Galileo, Al-Biruni wrote that the earth rotates on its axis. Galileo was reprimanded by the Roman Catholic Church for this discovery, but his ideas, Al-Biruni's ideas, were accepted by the religious scholars. Now there is a quote from Al-Biruni. He says, "For it is the same whether you take it that the earth is in motion or the sky, for in both the cases it does not affect the astronomical science. It is just for the physicist to see if it is possible to refute it." And so, with this scientific bent of mind, he promoted scientific learning. Al-Biruni wrote in Arabic and probably wanted his work to be read by the people who lived along the frontiers of the subcontinent. He was familiar with the translation and adaptation of Sanskrit, Pali, and Prakrit texts into Arabic, and these were on the subject of fables and astronomy and medicine. He was quite critical of the way in which they were written, and there were many texts that he wanted to rewrite and improve upon the manner in which they were written. Al-Biruni describes the barriers to his learning about India. He says that the first barrier was the language, because Sanskrit was very different from Arabic and Persian in ideas, in concepts, in vocabulary, and all these could not be easily translated from one language into another. Second barrier that he talks about is the difference in religion, in beliefs, in cultural practices. He feels that the Indian people were too self-absorbed in their own activities. They had no interest in outside world. The local population, therefore, was not interested in knowing what was happening outside India. The third barrier, which Al-Biruni feels restricted his understanding of India, was that he depended mostly on Brahminical works for his understanding of the society. And these works included Vedas, the Puranas, Bhagavad Gita, Ashtadhyayi of Patanjali, Manusmriti, other Dharma Shastras, etc. Because he is not able to exactly translate them, Therefore, very often he quotes from these Brahmanical works. Al-Biruni describes Sanskrit as a difficult language to conquer. And he says that it will not be easy to learn it because the language has got enormous range of words and inflections. Something like Arabic, calling one and the same thing by various names, both original and derivatives, using one and the same word for a variety of subjects in order to be properly understood. And these words must be distinguished from each other by various qualifying epithets. That is why Sanskrit was considered as a very difficult language to learn by him. Here it becomes very important to understand the term Hindu. The term Hindu was derived from Old Persian word used around circa 6th to 5th century BCE, and it referred to a region to the east of Sindhu. The Arabs continued with the Persian usage and called this region Al-Hind, and the people were called Hindi. Later on, the Turks referred to the people to the east of Indus as Hindu. And again, this term only meant the people staying to the east of river Indus. And their language was Hindavi. And the land on which they lived was Hindustan. So none of these expressions indicated the religious identity of the people. It is much later that the term Hindu became associated with the religion. The dispassionate account of Hinduism given by Al-Biruni was remarkable for its time. Because he had no preconceived ideas, he stated that he was fully objective in his writings. He remained unbiased like a proper historian should. And Al-Biruni documented everything about India just as it happened, of course, according to his own perspective. Al-Biruni's description of caste system in India. Al-Biruni tried to explain the caste system by looking for parallels in other societies. He noticed that in ancient Persia also there were 4 social categories, which were those of the knights and the princes, the monk, 5 priests and the lawyers, the physicians, astronomers and other scientists, and finally the peasants and the artisans. So what he was trying to say was that social divisions were not unique to India, they existed in other parts of the world as well. At the same time, he said that within Islam, all men were considered as equal, and there was only difference in the manner in which they prayed, or their devoutness towards the religion differentiated their quality. In spite of his acceptance of the Brahmanical description of the caste system, Al-Biruni disapproved of the notion of pollution. And he gave a reason for it. He said that everything that exists in nature, even if it becomes impure, it finally succeeds in gaining its original condition of purity. And for that, the example he gave was that the sun cleans the air, the salt in the sea prevents the water from becoming polluted. And if such a condition did not exist, that is the ability to purify oneself, if this condition did not exist in the nature, earth would be impossible to live on. Therefore, the concept of social pollution, which was an important part of the caste system, according to him, was against the laws of the nature. Al-Biruni's description of the caste system was deeply influenced by his study of normative Sanskrit texts, which laid down the rules governing the system from the point of view of the Brahmins. And we know that even though these Dharma Shastras and Dharma Sutras laid down rules of behavior for all Varnas or all social categories, they were not strictly followed, and there were many people who objected against it. Al-Biruni writes that the highest castes were Brahmins, and this, they said, is because they were created from head of Brahman. Brahman is only another name of the force which is called nature. And since head is the highest part of the body, the Brahmins are the choice part of whole genus. Therefore, Hindus consider them as the best of mankind. The second caste are the Kshatriyas, who were created from the shoulders and hands of Brahman. Their degree is not much below of the Brahmins, but their role is to protect. After them follow the Vaishyas, who were created from the thighs, and the Shudras, who were created from the feet of Brahman. Between the last two categories, there is no great distance. And he says that these differ from each other only in terms of certain amount of rights and privileges given to them. Otherwise, all of them live together in the same towns, same villages. They mix together in the same houses, same lodgings. And in spite of the fact that some people were categorized as outcast or some people were categorized as low caste, still these people provided inexpensive labor both to peasants and zamindars. And though they were socially oppressed classes, but they were important part of the economic network. Thank you. I hope you understood everything clearly. And now in the next segment, we will study about Ibn Battuta.